The transport report, you want to charge people to use the roads. How much?
Are you talking about congestion charging now?
I'm talking about road pricing.
Well, we've put in the transport strategy that we think it's worth discussing congestion charging. It's certainly one of the mechanisms that's used in cities around the world.
So
it's not something that we can bring in today.
But page 108, reduce congestion by charging more during peak hours and times of high demand. Does that mean, under this, if I drive into the city in peak hour, I pay more to use the road?
Well, this is part of a congestion charging discussion. It's a part of debate, and as we think, it's a discussion worth having into the future to understand, would that be an effective mechanism?
But you say it's your objective for road user pricing to charge more during peak hours.
If it was introduced, and it would need to be introduced by the state government, then that would be the aim of it, is to actually reduce congestion during peak hours. This is not something that we can do. We've put it in there as a suggestion, as one of the mechanisms that we should be talking about over the next 10 years.
Well, it's not a suggestion, it's an objective under this document. Objective.
If congestion charging was introduced, then that's the way it would be used.
And
we think congestion charging should be discussed. It's one of the key mechanisms that is used in cities around the world in ways in which I was in London when it was introduced in the city there, and it made a big difference almost immediately. The fact is, we don't have the powers to do that. We're putting that up as a suggestion to the state government as something to talk about, and they've already told us they are not interested in talking about it in the short term.
Oh, good.
There are many other issues in that transport strategy that I think are absolutely fantastic.
Okay, but let's just look at the tax first, because it strikes me, you talk about congestion charging, which is a tax, road use pricing. You also want to increase the congestion levy on car parking spots. How much?
Well, it's to be debated, because we've got a car parking levy at the moment and it hasn't really worked at all. So that's a levy that's collected by the state government.
How much is that?
Oh, I think it depends on I don't know actually, Neil. I'd have to come back to you on exactly how much it is.
I don't really know either. Just page 62 says it's 1,440 a year. Would that be right, Tony?
Sounds about right.
But Sydney's
per car park.
Yeah. Sydney's 2,490. You quote that. Do you want to go to the Sydney price?
No, I think we're just using it as a comparison to show what's happening in other cities and the way that they're dealing with it, because there's always concern about more charges. I think, look, the bigger question you're raising is we've got congestion on our streets at the moment, and we need to come up with ideas, because we can't actually build more roads in the CBD. We can't build more bridges, more tunnels for cars in this CBD. We've got to come up with mechanisms that help people that are coming into the city to shop and to do business. We want them to come. We need to find ways of deterring. But once again, deterring our through traffic.
This document says, "quote, we propose, etc., in the short term, increase the charge to address current congestion." So you are recommending an increase in the congestion levy, correct?
In the car parks, yes, we are.
How much?
Well, that's to be negotiated with the state government, because, as I said, that is the levy. We've put some comparisons in there. That is a suggestion of something that we would like to explore to see if it can make a difference to congestion in the CBD.
Herald Sun today says, war on cars. I prefer bikes good, cars bad. Is that fair?
No, not at all.
Well, you want to come by 50,000 coming into the city.
Well, there are 200,000 or so coming in at the moment, and almost half of those are using the city as a rat run, and they are the people that we are trying to deter.
A rat run? What do you mean, to get through?
Correct.
That's not a rat run, that's the main road to get across town, to go down King Street.
No. What we're saying is, for people that are coming into the city to do something, we're trying to reduce the congestion for those people. The only way that, one of the major ways that we can do that is to reduce through traffic. If almost 100,000 cars at any one time on our streets are really just using it to pass through, that causes major congestion for the people that have business.
What's the option to King Street to get across town?
Avoid town altogether. Avoid the CBD.
I want to go to I want to go to Brunswick. What do I do?
Go around the city.
Where?
Well, there are lots of other streets.
This is one of the concerns,
absolutely. No, I mean, actually avoid the city altogether.
So I'm going from Caulfield to Brunswick. How do I do it?
We can go down Hoddle. Well, look, it's a good question. Let's have a look. But I think what we are saying, and I'm happy to get the map out with you today, Neil, is that if we can find alternate ways for the through traffic, it will severely decrease the amount of congestion
I agree.
in the city.
I just think we need to provide roads as an option, and I don't think they're there yet.
Well, look, here's another thing for you. When the metro train tunnel is completed, there'll be an extra 500,000 people using the train and coming out into the streets of Melbourne. As we look forward in terms of balancing transport modes, we're seeing an increase in public transport use. We are providing ways in which people can use bicycles again to get out of their cars, and we are looking at ways of reducing that traffic congestion which exists today, and one of the main ways we can do it is to stop through traffic.
More one-way streets in the city. In fact, is it only King Street won't have a one-way lane in it?
Well, look, there's a reference in the document to looking towards having 2 lanes of traffic, one way each way. I think that's really going to be a balance as we look at how those modes of transport change. It's certainly not a tomorrow thing. What we are looking at is a consistency of traffic speeds across the city, and I think that's going to be the first thing we really focus on.
And that's 40 k's?
That's it.
Right across the city?
Yeah.
Where does the city end? What are the boundaries where the 40 k's end?
Well, at our municipal boundaries, and when you get to our municipal boundaries, you actually hit, for example, City of Yarra, where they have 40 k's. So you'll see in the transport plan quite an interesting picture which shows you what the different zones are, and we are surrounded by municipalities that have 40 k zones, and then all of a sudden you get into our municipality where we have all sorts of different speeds. So by making it consistent, the experts actually tell us we should get more efficient traffic flows.
So do you cover Hoddle Street?
We are one side of it up to Victoria.
Will that be 40 k's?
No, that will not be.
What about all Carlton, all Parkville, all West Melbourne, or East Melbourne? That'll all be 40 k's?
Yeah, throughout our municipality, that's the proposal. So we'll be looking at that.
What about Kingsway?
Kingsway, I'd have to come back to you, Neil, on Kingsway.
Docklands, I mean, if you go around the edge of on Warringah Way, that's 70, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, so those major roads, which are actually, they're not our roads, those roads, they are Vic roads. So where they're our roads within our municipality, which are all those lovely streets, those main streets here in our city, they will be moving towards 40 k's.
More parking, more bike lanes rather?
More parking for bikes?
No, more bike lanes.
Oh, more bicycle lanes? Yes, more protected bicycle lanes, up to about 90 k's of extra bicycle lanes, and we think that's going to be a fantastic investment based on current usage.
What roads, Lady?
Well, this is a really interesting one. I mean, our Hoddle grid is admired by people around the world for how well organised it is, and so we're really following that pattern, and I guess we are designating certain streets as bicycle streets, like Exhibition Street, which is already a major thoroughfare from the north of the city, Rathdown Street feeder, and also from the east as people come off the bike paths there. But then streets like King Street will remain a focus on cars. So I think we're looking at how do we divide up the existing space so that it fairly represents the different transport.
Well, that's true, but by any definition, on what we've discussed already, it will be more expensive for people to bring cars into the city and park, drive through the city or park, won't it? There are going to be fewer spots on the street.
There are. And
what percentage down?
Well, it's going to change over time depending on how we go about changing those major thoroughfares of ours. And look, I think what we're missing here is the really big point is that 89% of the trips done around our CBD are done by foot, and yet they only have 24% of the available infrastructure space to move around. We know that for every 10% of extra space we can provide to pedestrians, it's worth about $2 billion to our economy annually. It makes our city a lot safer, and it also makes our city more enjoyable to walk around. For people that have travelled overseas, particularly to European cities, and they've really enjoyed the heart of the city in terms of their pedestrian experience, it makes a huge difference to be able to just walk around a city and enjoy it.